had an overview of the different pathways you guys have taken, to get into social work. It's interesting now to look at what it's like to be a social worker, maybe day to day, or what you've experienced so far on your course. So Anna, we'll come back to you. And what would you say are the main challenges that your role brings of being a social worker? What is the main challenge to you, and how do you overcome that?
I think that it's different for everybody, but for me, I find it quite emotional. So it can be quite emotionally draining sometimes, because you're, especially in a hospital, the service users that you're working with might be at the lowest point of their life. They're very vulnerable, and they've come here because community services haven't worked for them, or they've slipped through the net, and you're almost acting like a detective looking into their life. It's all very trauma-informed care that we do as Mersey Care. And you're just looking at every sort of traumatic thing that's happened to a person and has led to them being here, which is a really important aspect of social work, is that you can kind of see how different things such as poverty and abuse and different societal factors can lead to somebody becoming unwell and becoming vulnerable. Whereas, like with Ellie and Matt, the nursing side is really important, but the two go together so well, because it helps you to bring in the social issues, which are so important when you're working with people with mental health problems. But I think that you're always very busy, always very, very busy. So I'm only just kind of learning now that I need to take more time as self-care time. That's what they'll say to you throughout your studies as a social worker, because people burn out, and they do, because it's all really caring people who go into the role. So they let things upset them and stress them out, because you're caring for people at the end of the day, and you need to know when to go home, when you just drop it for that day, when you can't do any more, because you really can't do anything to help people when you put yourself under that amount of stress. You really can't. So
and I suppose that must come with experience as well, mustn't it? When you just think you must have to be, tough and think, I've done a fair day's work now, and it's time to cut off for myself. Do when you're thinking about the emotional side of it, and the busyness and the stress that can come with it, do Mersey Care have things in place to support staff with those issues?
Yeah, so the good thing about being on a team of social workers means that the rest of the team are also really, really supportive. But if you were, for example, my managers will tell me, you need to go home now, because we all look out for each other as a team. But if you weren't getting on with your team for whatever reason, there's so many kind of different levels in Mersey Care that you could go to speak to someone about that, and different services that you can access as well if you're struggling. So through the pandemic, I know that our psychology team were offering to speak to any staff who were struggling throughout it, and it's all people pulling together like that as a team. When you're working on a multidisciplinary team with like psychologists and nurses and doctors, there's always somebody who will jump in, who will give you a hand. But it's really rewarding, so don't let it put you off that it's stressful.
Well, that's a good link in for me. Thanks to the next question, because obviously every job has its challenges, and we don't want to just focus on that. So we want to focus on the wonderful positive attributes that working in social care has. So if we go to Matt Knight, what would you say the most rewarding part of studying for a career in social work?
So I'm currently with the drugs and alcohol team, and the person, my practice educator and my workplace supervisor, she's been doing this for years, and you can see the rapport that she has built up with the clients, and how she's put clients through rehab, and she's been there from the beginning to the end of their journey. So when they've come into services here, and you can, whether it's a month, 2 months, 6 months down the line, you've actually physically changed changed their life essentially. You really have made fundamental differences to their lives. And that's what I've learned here in the 3 months that I've been with Ambition, the actual change you can have in people and their day-to-day living. It's been amazing.
Yeah, I think from hearing both Anna and Matt, your answers to different questions about the challenge and rewarding part. There seems to be a common theme there about working with people, you know, is basically the part of the job. That working with people can bring the challenges, but it also brings the most rewarding aspects of this career. So the next question I'm just going to throw out to all of you to, you know, contribute if you feel you want to. What advice would you give to a student who's watching this video and they're thinking, I would like to get into social work? What is the main piece of advice you would give to a young person today considering this career path?
I think I would probably say just to, in terms of when you're training and when you still having to go to your lectures, as well as, you know, you've got placements and things like that, I'd say to take advantage of the support that you get from your placement and the staff in your university. So I know a conversation that me and Matt have had in our kind of group in uni recently is about reflection. We're all getting a bit sick of doing reflections now because we're in our last year, and it just seems a bit tedious, but it's actually really quite useful, particularly when you are going into work and you do see quite you know, distressing things. You see people that might be going through the worst time in their lives, and it is really good to just take a step back on reflecting and what's happened and how you dealt with it, and maybe what you could bring into the future, but also how you could improve as well. Because it's important to remember really that we are social workers, but we are still human beings as well. We're individuals and we do need to look after ourselves. So it's good to just take advantage of the amount of support you do get when you are still a student.
Yeah, that's wonderful advice. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ellie. Does anyone want to add any other pearls of wisdom they've got to budding social workers? Or
I think I would say, like, seize every opportunity that you get. There's always like extra courses you can do, and the nature of the work we do means that we're working with really caring people, and you know, they're never going to tell you off for asking a question, however silly you think it is or however out there you think it is. Everybody, they actually enjoy talking about it, so I would ask any question you want to ask and just take any opportunity that you get.
wonderful. Thank you so much. So we'll move on to our last question now, and we'll with every episode of Creating Careers, we want students to know what the point of going to school is. Basically, why do you sit there day after day, and how it links to your future career. So we want them, when they're sat in maths, history, English, whatever topic, to think, what is the point of this? Why are we doing it? Because it helps you in your future life. So Ellie, Matt, Price, what skills, knowledge do you think you learned during your time in school that you would still use in your career today or your studies today?
Well, for us as the nursing part, maths was massively important. I personally had to go back and redo mine, which was a massive regret for me. I wish I'd have done it more in school. I had to go back and redo maths. So that's mega important in our careers. But one thing that I took away that I saw you say was teamwork.
Yeah. And that's something that actually keeps coming up through the recordings, isn't it? About relying on asking questions or relying on the teamwork for support. And to be honest, that's something you take into your personal life, isn't it? You know, every aspect of life, you know, using your networks and working with people. And it's interesting you say that about, you know, going back to redo your maths. And again, there's that message of nothing's ever too late. You can always, you know, go back and do things. Ellie, what about from your point of view?
Yeah, I think a big thing that kind of scared me when I first came into the degree about social work especially was about the law, because you have to, you know, you've got to know about kind of law, policies, legislations and things. And I did get quite stressed about that at the start, thinking that I was going to have to go into this knowing everything. And it was quite good starting university, because you do get the, you know, the training for that from beginners level up until when you're qualifying, which does help. But then as well, when you are going into practice on your placements, And then even when you qualify into a job as well, you come to realise that that's just an ongoing learning process. Really, not everyone knows everything. Even people that have been in the job for years don't know everything. So it's kind of just remembering that you will learn as you go, and you know, you might not feel ready, but I think everyone gets that feeling anyway, don't they? And it's just kind of remembering why you came into it in the first place, and you must have the qualities that are needed to be able, you know, to be able to do it, for you to apply in the first place, I suppose. So
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much. I think we've come to the end of today's session, and I can't thank you all enough for joining us today and taking some time out to share your experiences with our students. So students, if you do have any more questions on social work, send them into careershub@growthplatform.org and we'll get your questions answered. And don't forget, after this session, to complete the Creating Careers Roadmap to evaluate your interest in the career path that was showcased in today's episode. Again, if you go to the description below, all the links you need will be in there to complete everything for today's episode. So thank you again, everyone, for joining. Thank you for watching, and we'll catch you on the next episode of Creating Careers. Thank you very much.